Good evening. Welcome to what seems like the semi-annual meeting at Swarthmore Borough. It's not really. For 3 months we've only met once a month. Typically we meet twice, but it seems so long since I've seen my good friends on council. But here we are for the Monday, August 14 legislative session of Swarthmore Borough Council. We were going to address a certain matter first before we got to, we're going to do it. The mayor wishes to make a presentation at this time.
Thank you. We are very fortunate here in the borough to have a police force which represents us quite well and keeps us safe and does it all in a way that is sort of incredibly pleasant. And I think of the person we want to honor tonight is someone who has been an officer for 25 years. He's a ranking sergeant right now, and I think he probably epitomizes what we all think of as a community police officer. So I'm going to stand up and I'm going to present him an award recognition for his 25 years at the Race Office. So it says, the mayor, representing the grateful people of Swarthmore, recognizes and applauds the service and commitment of Sergeant Raymond C. Stufflet during his 25 years as an officer here in the borough. Ray's service is exemplary and shows a great understanding of how to protect and encourage community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just
If you please, Ray,
yes.
please go over there and speak into the microphone. You don't need to identify yourself.
I just wanted to say thank you. It's amazing how fast 25 years goes by. I came here when I was 23, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. I'm actually looking forward to the next 20 more. So, and thank you very much for the recognition.
Well,
and again,
thank you for your service.
thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. I would note that at the conclusion of our regular meeting this evening, we will have an executive session to discuss personnel matters and potential litigation. At this point, we welcome public comment. Anyone who wishes to address us should come forward, state your name, your street address, and please speak directly into the microphone.
Okay, thank you. My name is Robert Small, and we live at 305 Rutgers Avenue. We were wondering about the current status of the traffic calming project at the intersection of Yale and Rutgers. We understood that it was scheduled to begin before now, so I'd like to get clarity on it.
Okay, the borough manager will share with you the travails of dealing with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation as it relates to this issue.
We are awaiting final approval from PennDOT on the curb cut design.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We're awaiting similar approval to finish the sidewalk along Harvard Crescent where it intersects with Dickinson. Well, there will be a curb cut, and a similar approval for a curb cut to finish the Chestnut Avenue sidewalk up at Elm.
And the College Avenue
And the-
sidewalk, one on
right.
College
I would
Avenue.
only add that we are, Swarthmore Borough is not delaying any of this. This is all,
I did just blame the comment.
I'm reiterating this.
It's nice to know that there are a number of people in Harrisburg who sit around all day looking at drawings of curb cuts, but it's very important.
These
And they
people are only
contradict
King of Prussia, actually.
Oh,
Perhaps too close to the King of Prussia Mall. I don't know.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else tonight? Yes, please, come forward. Take your time. Speak directly into the microphone and your street address and name, sir.
So my name is Jonathan Hodgson. I live at 533 Riverview Road, and I'm here to inquire about the current status of the work on the property owned by Mr. DeBito.
Okay. Mr. Scott can respond to that.
The borough has finally been provided with a proposed planting plan from the owner of the shopping center, and we will be discussing it in executive session tonight.
Thank you. Anyone else? No?
Me,
No, you're next.
after you. No, after you. Gentlemen, occasionally before ladies.
Well, you were last in. There's an accounting principle. Last in, first out.
Technicalities.
Good evening, council. Rick Lee, president of the fire company, and with me.
Robert Henson, Chief of the Fire Department. We want to come here and thank you guys for your support for our application, our successful application for a SAFER grant, which is a federal grant. It's the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Grant. So that grant will see $287,268 coming to us to 75% of the cost for 2 additional firefighters staffed 5 days a week, 14 hours a day for 3 years. So it's 75% of the cost for the first 2 years, 25% of the cost for the third year. We're looking forward to this opportunity to get us to the next level for budgeting for fire protection in the future after the course of this grant.
Okay.
Having these people during the day is crucial. Our diminishing volunteer pool makes it very difficult to staff during the week. We're looking forward to having these people.
This is our unprecedented third time we have received a SAFER grant from the federal government. And so we're very fortunate that they have recognized the fire company as a department that can benefit from their program. This program this time is really going to help us to establish a budgetary path, so in 4 years, when the grant is over, we can continue funding this manpower. As Rob said, we have a small portion to pay the first 2 years, and then it increases the third year and is over after 3 full years. So again, as Rob said, we want to thank Borough Council, and especially Jane, who, with her hard work, helped us put this grant together. And this excellent collaboration that we have will enable the fire company to continue the excellent service to the community in this time of vanishing volunteers. So thank you all.
Thank you very much. Is this a kind of a grant that might be applied for again, 3 years in?
This is our third.
Great.
See, 5 year, 2 year, now 3 year.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes,
Okay.
please.
I'm Barbara Stratton.
Wait till you get up. Talk into the microphone. If you don't talk into the microphone, you're lost to posterity.
I'm shorter than these gentlemen.
Well, okay.
Now, I have more
Well, your
copies.
name and street address.
My name is Barbara Stratton.
Right.
The address is 801 Yale Avenue.
Okay.
At the condo.
Thank you.
And I'm checking in with one major matter in particular.
Yes.
And I brought copies of these notes. I sent a note to Nether Providence today, and to Jeff Jadko, because the situation is that the Dix Run Bridge, i.e. the bridge at the bottom of Avondale, Rose Valley, and Yale Avenues, is defunct. In addition to that, it's totally closed off. In addition to that, though, which is, in my mind, another major concern, is that there is a lack of any kind of defined walkway. If one crossed over and then went up to get on the sort of sidewalk going up to the Copples Lane, etc., there's no sidewalk there. There's no definition of a sidewalk. And it's unkempt and it's actively dangerous. Now, in January, I went to the EAC, and the EAC, in particular, Doug Hasbrook, looked into that matter in the past. I've done some coordination. I did the re-coordination, and it's a let's pass the buck game. And it's appalling due to the safety matters. In terms of the college owns the land associated with the bridge. I don't know if you all know that, but the college...
You do?
Yes, they do.
I know.
Okay, yeah, good. Well, you would know that. But that's an established fact. NP had done a schematic of an improvement to that bridge. Everything seems to be stuck in the water, and it's significantly dangerous. And needs, to me, it needs coordination, happiness, and planning together to fix something, maybe with a Band-Aid first to get set to September. Because regular people walk there, bike there, children go there, and I put in here for drama, but it's true. Last week when it was raining, I decided I'm going to go for a walk. I went down there. I fell pretty badly in the mud because there's no definition. And you know how cars are there? And it absolutely has to be addressed by the triumvirate, by NP, which has been very interested in it for a while, by the college, who slide the buck, and by Borough Council. The school district, perhaps. It impacts everybody in some form or other.
You do realize that we can only encourage the college and Nether Providence to deal with it because it is not in Swarthmore Borough.
Well, you can't say that, and you can
Yeah, I
say it
just
very
did.
easily, but at the same time, nothing, very little has been done. NP has plans, they have a public work department, we have a public work department, there's that multi-municipal cooperation going. Hey! I
Thank
don't,
you. What do you say lacks definition?
any facsimile of a walkway from, let's call it, Avondale and Rose Valley Road. If one goes north on Avondale, there's no definition there. I think that when Dick's Run had a bridge on it and you cross there, it was kind of tight, but the road and gravel, some sort of a path, had more definition, and then you go up past the big electrical
Right.
field, whatever it is, that whole stretch it's gotten degraded, which you figure it would. But it would be relatively simple to ask NP, maybe to work with NP, because it's the same school district, to get something into shape.
Thank you.
So did you want copies, hard copies
Sure,
of this
please.
note? It also has the note from Jeff Jabko. NP does have the schematic with recommendations also for changes to Dick's Run. But after, from January until what, this is August?
Yeah, thank you. The history of that walkway is that at the time the high schools were consolidated,
Right.
there was never even the paved macadam walkway before that. A Swarthmore Region 3 school board member, Swarthmore Rutledge school board member named Matt Reichik, was concerned that in fact some kids from Swarthmore might actually try to walk to the high school and there was no place for them to do it. And at that point, Nether Providence paved that macadam sidewalk. So that's the circumstance under which it came into existence in the first place.
Right, and I want to point out that other people.
If you want to keep talking, go
Yeah,
for it.
I do. I want to point out that other regular people, employees, people who like the Blue Route mitigation walk, they use that. You want to go to the Leaper House and you want to walk.
I understand.
It's important stuff. So to me, it's a community endeavor.
Thank you.
I will now be quiet.
Anybody else tonight, please?
Richard Shunko, 445 Riverview. Just a question, is there any plan to make public the counter proposal from the developer?
You're entitled to it. I can, let's see, what would be the best way? Why don't I provide a copy to Mr. Mancini, who I think has then gives it to his clients who spread around the neighborhood. Is that okay?
Right. Very good. Thank you. Anybody else tonight? Thank you. Public comment is closed. At this point, I am going to open a public hearing on the Swarthmore Borough Pollutant Reduction Plan, which I will ask the borough manager to discuss.
In 2004, the borough received its first general permit to discharge the stormwater into our own sewer system as required under the Clean Water Act. We've renewed the permit once since that time, and we now have to renew the permit again. As part of the permit, which before required only some somewhat general information about what we were doing with stormwater management, what our education was, what there were opportunities for public participation. This is reported every year to the state environmental agency, DEP. Mapping our storm sewer system. It was sort of a qualitative approach to stormwater management. In this latest round of renewal, we are actually required to be a bit more technical and submit a plan that shows how we are dealing with what impairment there is in our creek. This is Little Crum Creek, and the major impairment in that creek is sediment. Sediment is difficult to measure, so if you take a look at this report, you'll see that what the engineer did, and this is being done all over the Commonwealth, there are hundreds of these reports that are going to be filed with DEP. They look mostly at the amount of impervious cover that's feeding into the creeks, and from that you can make a calculation of your sediment load. You're then required under the terms of our permit to reduce the sediment load by 10% by the year 2020, 2022. It's 5 years. The permit will renew in 2018. It takes about 5 months to review what you've submitted. In our plan, there are 3 projects that are being proposed to help reduce sediment in the stream.
Rick, please.
One is a plan to put is at the Swarthmore Swim Club, where the borough actually has already received a Growing Greener grant. It's not quite done yet. And the purpose of that project is to take that concrete channel that currently runs through the swim club and the very swampy area towards the back of the lap pool, and daylight that stream, and also do a small, basically not retention basin, but more of a wetlands area, also at the back of the picnic road. That will get us some points to helping reduce our sediment load. A second project is behind the Cades and Wallingford Swarthmore School District fields, where people have talked for years. There's all those bike ramps back there, very compacted soil, not a lot of trees. We'll be doing some riparian buffer work back there that would help that stream. And then the third is a plan for an underground detention basin on Henderson Field. Again, very swampy, takes a lot of storm water from, a little bit from Upper Riverview, more from Dogwood and Forest. There's no drains in that area at all. They don't drain onto that field. And so this would be an underground detention basin. Never see it look just like the one that we have by SRS, by the tunnel. There's a big underground detention basin in our new parking lot at Central Park. So taken together, those 3 projects should reduce the sediment load adequately to make sure we are in compliance with our general permit. The estimated cost is definitely on the high side. In the report, the engineer estimates a cost at around, I think it was $710,000. Don't have to necessarily do all the projects. You can see what sort of reduction you get from each project as you do them sequentially. And again, they may just not cost that much to implement. Funding, don't really know where it would come from right now. Obviously, we can tax. There's a new ability in Pennsylvania to have a stormwater management fee. Some of you may be familiar with that. In Radnor, each homeowner pays a fee based on the amount of impervious cover they have on their property, and they can use that money to do stormwater management in the township. And then there's right now a pretty good selection of grants to help implement these projects. So we hope that all 3 of those can help pay for those.
Okay, any questions?
If we're not in compliance.
Would you speak in the microphone?
Apologize.
That's okay.
If we're not in compliance, what's the?
You get fined. If you don't, you get fined by DEP.
Whether there will be...
Whether that's more than 700,000.
Right. I think there's going to be a lot of questions, including the timeline for compliance, which is pretty short. My guess would be that they will extend these general permits and the amount of time you have to do this work. but we don't know that for sure.
Having seen the pace of public works projects in the past 4 years, is there also a mechanism to buy or sell credits with other municipalities? Like if you can't do a project, is there a way to?
You can join with other municipalities and submit a joint plan.
Okay.
There are 10 municipalities in the eastern end of the county doing that, but it's, Swarthmore's not in that, and it's probably too late for it.
And actually, DEP has not yet actually told them how they'll share those credits. It's a great organization that started in the eastern part of the county, and they have it really tough because they're very developed. And
Yes,
their
I guess that's
teams are
my thing. Like
severely
if you're a
impaired.
Bryn Mawr, like if you're really
Right.
built up, what do you do?
It's for all of us who are downstream, it's very difficult. If we were farther upstream, our impairment, we would be required to do something called TMDLs, which are total maximum daily loads, where DEP would require a much more rigorous pre-monitoring analysis of the stream and post-monitoring. For those of us who are downstream, this is a softer approach.
Ross?
Yes, so reading the report,
Microphone?
I'm sorry.
I can't see from, okay, thank you.
So reading the report, they calculate the acreage and the different perviousness, and then they multiply it by a baseline factor. So they're determining what we have to do based on this kind of generalized formula. And they're not actually measuring what the silt is in the creek.
Correct.
Okay. So my guess is that in the future, they'll just reapply the same formula, which means since we're not actually fixing the creek, it'll just continue on and on and on. And
Well, no, because you get credit. You get a quantitative credit for each thing that you do. There was a little chart in there. So you get 60% credit for a stream bank restoration. You get, a lot of places are retrofitting their stormwater basins. We don't have any stormwater basins. So you'll be able to get a credit based on what you do. Whether they then require another 10% reduction, absolutely.
That was
They
my
could do that.
question.
Yep.
So,
They
or
could
does it just
absolutely.
reach a point where we're done?
I think all we know is this 5-year period.
Right.
And what happens after that kind of remains to be seen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so one question I have, more granular, is for the 600,000 in stream bank restoration. Is that subject to bidding and? Okay.
Oh,
so
yeah,
all
and
that-
this is, we're not promising anyone that we're spending $710,000.
Yeah.
This was an informational document for the public to know what might be in store. DEP is not going to come back and say, oh, you got that work done for $350,000, you need to spend more. They're going to look at what we did and how much credit we get for what we did.
So the next step after this is we provide this to DEP? Or?
This goes to DEP with our general permit, which goes in a month. I mean, we have to submit this, and it's not really a council action item. This is more, you're required to have, it's really for you, of course, but also for the public to have a chance to comment on the plan. It's been in the library, and we advertised it in the Swarthmore.
Thank you.
Anybody else? One of the advantages of selecting these three points of attack is that none of them involves private property. There are either, well, I guess Cades does in a sense, but then maybe an issue in the future is if we do these that are school district property or, but if we next have to do something else, then it might be something else that begins to involve, the only way you can do it is get private property, and then you might get some pushback from individual property owners that that's not on my land and so on. But this particular approach does not involve such negotiations. Now, has this been discussed with the school district? I mean,
The
because
school district does, no, none of these projects have been discussed with the school district. The borough actually owns very little stream property in the borough. And one of the very unfortunate things is despite other municipalities trying, you cannot get any credit for the work that you've done before. So our EAC has done a tremendous amount of stream bank restoration already. So there really wasn't much that we could add on our own property that would have been much easier.
But presumably, since presently the school district owns Riverview, they would have to know and give their
Absolutely.
consent to do that work, but to this point, they've not been
Correct.
involved.
The swim club does know about the,
Right.
because we're already well along in the
Okay.
planning for that.
Does any member of the public have anything to say about this particular item at this point? Anybody on council have anything further? Okay, the public hearing is closed. We'll return to the regular agenda. At this point, I would just note that there appear, council members may remember that earlier in the year, we encouraged state legislators to vote against a bill in Harrisburg in the Senate and the House that would have barred local governmental units from imposing a tax on or barring or banning the use of plastic bags within their boundaries. And notwithstanding our tremendous clout in Harrisburg, the legislature passed that. But the latest issue of the Borough News reports that although the bill passed the House and the Senate, it was vetoed by Governor Wolf. Whether I do not know whether an effort has been made to override that veto, but at least he did veto it. So I thought I would report that. We have only minutes of one meeting to take into account tonight. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes of our meeting of July 10, 2017? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Any comment on those minutes as circulated? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the minutes as distributed, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any no vote on the minutes? There is none. They're approved unanimously. The Environment Committee.
Sure. I think I'm going to do the appointment first because it's quicker. Okay. I move that we appoint Elizabeth Jenkins to the EIC. Can you? She's raising her hand back there. Elizabeth is a Swarthmore alumnus, and she has experience. She was a senior standard analyst for B Lab, where she helped B corporations get certified, and she also worked for the Sustainable Business Network. And she's lived in Swarthmore for the second time, I guess, a year and a half or something. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Good. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in
Who was the second? Who wants to be the second?
David.
David, okay.
No second. Okay. Any discussion on this? All those in favor of the appointment, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That was unanimous. You were appointed, approved with thanks.
Did we say that?
Did anybody second it? Or was I the second time?
No, that was,
No, I thought you.
David,
David
that's
Our motion.
did we, I'm sorry, I was actually writing it down. Did you say that this is to fill the unexpired term of
I did
John
not say
Penders?
that, but it is to fill the unexpired term of John Penders, who moved out of
Okay.
Borough.
And it expires December of 2018.
And we understood when we voted all of that.
You knew that.
We did.
Got
Thank
it.
you for
I would have put it in the minutes no matter what.
Thank you very much. You're welcome to stay. It just gets more interesting.
Absolutely, she is. She's great. Welcome. Great. So I have another.
Yes, you do.
All
Okay.
right. So you saw in your packet the text for the resolution that Pennsylvania joined the U.S. Climate Alliance, and of course the background I'm sure most of you know, which is that our president declined to join the Paris Climate Agreement. So we are, so many states have joined, formed and joined the U.S. Climate Alliance, and I'd like to make a motion that Swarthmore pass this resolution and send it to Harrisburg. We adopted a lot of the EAC worked hard on this document and used a lot of the language from Leanne Kruger-Branicki's resolution. Currently it's HR 421 and it's languishing or something in state legislature. So that's, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, but now this resolution is not addressed to and really has nothing to do with what's happening in the state legislature. Is that correct? By its terms, it doesn't.
Yeah, as I read it,
It doesn't
there's
have-
no mention of HR 421.
Okay, all right, that was just the background.
Okay.
Yeah.
This has a number of whereases, and I'm not going to read it all. It will be available on the borough website. True?
I think it's on
Is
already,
it all
correct?
already? So it has been on the borough website. Is there discussion about the subject of it or whether it is something we should do? There having been a motion and it being seconded, any discussion?
Would it be worthwhile, Mark, to support the House bill? It's still currently being debated on the floor.
I don't know.
Just add one more to your 50, whereas it support, just a thought.
Yeah, no, I don't know. How would that be done?
Well, you need to propose some language at the table.
I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah.
We've confused that enough before.
What's the House bill number?
I mean, when you,
421.
it doesn't mention what's pending in the House, but, you know, the first being further resolved mentions that, well, more than mentions, Borough Council of Swarthmore calls upon the members of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, Senate, Governor Trumbull, to take all necessary actions
Okay, yeah, all right. So it covers-
to ensure that Pennsylvania enters swiftly into the climate alliance. So I think it pretty much does it without mentioning the buildings.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Any other discussion? All those in favor of adopting Resolution 2017-07, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, that's unanimous. Its resolution is approved and will be signed.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
And somebody just needs to let me know where you would like it sent, or at least sent
Okay,
somewhere.
absolutely.
If that's.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Should I talk about
A question has arisen as to the history of the Environment Committee of Borough Council and its duties and responsibilities in light of their having come into being the Environmental Advisory Council some years ago. And I'm going to encourage a further consideration, not necessarily tonight's meeting, about the role that the Environment Committee performed. It's not a committee that meets regularly. Issues like this may come through it, and we, particularly given our constituency, are most attuned to environmental concerns and issues. But how, going forward, the Environment Committee functions, given the existence of the Environmental Advisory Council, we'll consider now, if only by the time the next council comes around, a decision will have to be made whether it should continue to exist. Okay, good enough for you?
About whether the committee on council should still
Yeah.
exist, not the EAC.
Right.
No, the
It might be
EAC
redundant. Either, we hardly ever meet, so we should either just abolish it or give it a specific mission so that it's not just languishing. I mean, there's, the people on it maybe could be doing other things instead, or,
Okay.
you know, I mean, the Environment Committee existed before the EAC.
Right.
And anyway, it's
I
just,
follow you. I
it's
follow
just a
you.
question that's come up, and it would be
Okay.
good to know.
Okay, good, thank you. Anything else on the Environment Committee tonight? Okay, thank you very much. Finance Committee.
Thank you, David. We'll start with the financial report for July. Just a couple of quick comments. Just in terms of revenues, it looks like relative to last year that it's tracking less, but that's a little bit misleading. Last year is really the number that's was just tracking way ahead of where it probably should have been, and that was driven by some of the big numbers in terms of building permits that we received last year above budget, as well as property transfer tax, which is difficult to predict. But both of those things are on track this year, but last year they were particularly strong, so that's why that number looks low. And then really the other thing I would add is that at the end of July, the cash balance was $2,199,100, $965.
Okay.
I'd love to take any questions on the financial report for July. Okay, hearing none. I'm going to move on to the wire transactions. For the month of July, I'd like to make a motion to approve wire transactions totaling $2,564.49.
Second. All those in favor, any discussion about that? None? All those in favor of approving those wire transactions, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That's unanimous. They're approved.
And then moving on now to checks to paid in July. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review those, and I'd like to make a motion to approve checks totaling $297,561.53.
Second.
Is there any discussion about any of the items on the open invoices? All those in favor of paying those invoices in that total amount, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That's unanimous. Their payment is approved.
Okay, and then finally on my list, I'd like to make a motion to approve or add John Cordo to the pension committee. That term is indefinite, I've been told, which is quite a long time.
Or not.
Or not, potentially. Figure out as we approach infinity. But John is a relatively new resident of Swarthmore. I think he's lived here for about 2.5 years. We're very fortunate, I think, because he works for Brandywine Global Asset Management in their pension plan, selling pension plans and advising people. So I think it's potentially a great addition for the pension committee because he's typically on the other side, so he's coming to our side.
Okay.
He has various securities licenses, including he's a chartered investment analyst, so I think he's well qualified and he'll bring a unique perspective to the pension committee. So I'd like to make a motion to approve John Cordo.
Second.
How do you spell the name?
C-O-R-D-O.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor of the appointment of Mr. Cordo to the pension committee, say aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. It's unanimous. He is approved with thanks.
Yes, and I don't think the finance committee is going to meet this month, but I believe we'll meet the next month after Jane discusses the budget schedule.
Okay, good, thank you. General government?
So the first item we have to discuss is the permit for road closures and events, town center events. It's been circulated many times. I would just say that I think it's both a permit form and a process, and it looks good to the committee, the general government committee. It looks good to Jane. I think I can speak for you on that. So we recommend this. Jane, do we need a resolution or anything on it?
I think just a motion to adopt the procedure and use the form.
Okay, so I will make a motion to adopt the form and the procedure that has been previously circulated. If anybody from the public wants it, we can provide it to you. So moved.
Second.
Okay, and it is, the formal title is Permit Application for Town Center Event and/or Street Closure. And the attachment is Application Procedures for Town Center Events and/or Street Closures.
Yes.
Any other questions about it?
I assume Jane will put it up on the map once it's approved.
Yeah, we have a forms and permits right on the front page. We'll put it up.
Okay, good. All those in favor of approval of the application and procedures, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It's unanimous. It's approved.
Great.
And with thanks. I think it's excellent.
So the next item is, well, first I'll just say, we'll go ahead and have our meeting on August 21st at 7:30. Mary, I think you're not going to be there. David, I don't know if you'll be there or not, but let's just keep it on the calendar. And if enough members can't make it, we'll cancel it, but let's keep it on the calendar for now. So aging in place, I would just like to comment that you may remember in the last budget cycle, last August and September, we had some proposals around aging. What we ended up doing was giving 2 grants to the library and to the Recreation Association. And then Jane came up with what I think is a truly brilliant idea to have the library and SRA contribute small portions of those funds so that we can hire an intern for the borough, who is Alex Mayette, is that?
Millette.
Millette, that's how you pronounce it. M-A-I-L-L-E-T. And Alex has been great. Having an intern has been great. And so, Jane, I think that was a brilliant suggestion. And he's done all sorts of work, which I can't go into in detail tonight. But it's been a tremendous help, and I would recommend that we consider doing that in the future also. And he's worked on Time Bank. He's worked with the library. He's met with the Senior Citizens Association. He's worked on a brochure. He's worked on the website. He's talked with Linton Stables. He's just done a whole bunch of things where we need somebody to actually do some of these things. So that's all very positive. One thing I'll mention is that partly as a result of that is that Alex and others put together a brochure. And this isn't what it's going to look like because I just printed this on my black and white printer and it's whatever. But it's a brochure about local services and programs for seniors. It'll be digitally on the website for the borough. For the library, it'll be in paper out here. The library will print up about 100 copies of it. The library is committed to maintaining this going forward. And, it's as I said, services and programs for seniors. So this is helpful. This is good. This is a step forward. I think you saw it all in the distributions.
Mm-hmm.
And then our website now, Jane facilitated that there's a button for seniors that's prominent right there as you pull our website up. If you take a look at it, right underneath permits and everything, the little brown area. So that's a little more prominent. And then I'm not going to go in detail about Time Bank, except to say that we dug really, really deep into Time Bank. And Alex went to 2 other communities, Media and what was it again?
Phoenixville.
Yeah, Phoenixville. Got their spreadsheets for their costs, all the details. We've had great meetings with the Senior Citizens Association. I'd like to praise Linton Stables for the job he's been doing in coordinating for the Senior Citizens Association. He's got an active committee that is actively participating, and that's what we wanted. We wanted a client or a customer who could give us feedback on what we want to do around aging in place. It's going in that direction, and that's really good. So we have a lot more meetings set up. We have some positive things. I'm not going to report on all the positive things now, but I just wanted to report on, I think that has taken a good direction, and we want to keep pushing it in that good direction.
Excellent.
Mary, David, you guys want to add anything?
Very well stated.
Okay, so that's it.
Thank you very much. Sure. Planning and zoning.
Thank you. I don't know if we're making history here tonight, but we are going to make a motion to appoint Elizabeth Jenkins to yet another position.
That's how political careers are built.
I think that is correct. So Elizabeth is also willing to become the alternate on the Planning Commission. I think it was almost 2 years ago that the state legislature amended the municipality's planning code to allow for a planning commission alternate. So we think that would be a great idea. Elizabeth is willing to serve. Lauren already told us about her background. Part of the reason, just so everybody understands why she's being appointed to both things, there is a dedicated seat on the EAC for a member of the Planning Commission. And Elizabeth is willing to wear both of those hats. So what I'd like to do then is make a motion, and actually this one is contained in a resolution, and is that because this is the first time we're doing this?
No, actually, all appointments are supposed to be made by resolution. I just forget now and again.
Okay.
Remind everybody of that, so.
All right.
And that's a recent change in the state law, so
Sure.
it's just old practices guidelines.
All right, well, we'll strike that last part, but this time, we're going to do a resolution. It's Resolution 2017-08, and it is a resolution appointing an alternate to the Planning Commission. And it's self-explanatory, we are going to appoint Ms. Elizabeth Jenkins to the position of alternate on the Planning Commission, such appointment to expire on December 31st, 2020.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of that appointment say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The appointment is unanimous, and once again, thank you for your service.
Okay, yes, thank you. And then we have a second motion for another appointment to the Planning Commission. This person is going to serve out the remainder of John Pender's term on the Planning Commission, which ends in December of 2018. And his name is James Levine. He is a relatively new Swarthmore resident, has lived here, I think, for about a year and a half. Absolutely loves it, and when we put an ad in the Swarthmorean asking for people to volunteer for Planning Commission, he stepped right up and is happy to do it. He is a litigator at Pepper Hamilton in Wilmington, Delaware, and he also has land use litigation experience. So we are happy to have him. So I would like to move to appoint James Levine to the Planning Commission for a term ending December 2018, the remainder of John Pender's term.
I think it's actually 2019, but I'll
Yeah, I
check.
think-
They're not the same, they've never been the same, no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because one's a 4-year, one's a 3-year
Okay.
term, so.
I think you're right. I have
And it's
that.
2019, you're right.
Is there a second?
Second.
Now, this one doesn't require a resolution?
It does, actually. I mean, every appointment should be
So-
made
so-
a resolution.
We can make,
We
Is
can
this
make, we can
09?
make it correct.
So we will deem this to be a resolution.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
and we do own, we
And then-
amend 09. have
And
a-
ultimately, be a neat blue things like this that can
Yes,
be
with the
signed,
blue
that
backers.
would be like it's a real resolution.
I think it would be 2017-09, or not necessarily.
It's whenever John's term ends.
Oh, I meant, that's what the.
Oh, you're saying what the
number on the
resolution
resolution.
number. It would, yeah.
But don't worry about it.
Okay.
We'll figure
We
it
can
out.
create
It's a
it after the
resolution.
fact.
Okay.
The next sequential resolution.
Gotcha.
Okay. All those in favor of this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Chair votes aye. The resolution is adopted unanimously with appreciation for the service.
Yes, thank you. Committee report. The Planning and Zoning Committee did meet last month. We met to discuss among our regular agenda items whether or not council wanted to take another look or make any changes to our ordinance concerning Airbnbs. I think most of you will remember that last year we took a look at this at the urging of somebody who owned a bed and breakfast here in town. And the decision was made at that time to send a letter to people who currently rented out rooms in their homes under Airbnb to limit that use, those rentals, to 1 room at a time or 2 people at a time. A year has passed and there has been some talk about limiting those rentals more or banning them altogether. That was sort of advocated by a resident who came to the meeting. The meeting was a full house. A lot of people who rent out rooms through Airbnb came up to talk during the public comment about how they think it's a great idea, that it benefits the borough, it brings people here who spend money here. It's a way for people who are aging in place to maybe offset the cost of living here by renting out a room in their house. So after much discussion and discussion among the committee, we decided not to recommend to council that we change anything in the ordinance at this time. There was no compelling reason to do that. Our next Planning and Zoning Committee meeting is going to be on August 24th. We will not have that item specifically on the agenda again. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more public comment about it, but what we will be talking about in that meeting, as we always do, is the zoning hearing board application that has come in, correct?
it has come in and it's not been publicized
Right,
yet, so
okay.
it's not public.
Okay, so does that mean we should not discuss
No,
it?
no,
It just hasn't been advertised.
Okay.
It hasn't been advertised or
Yes,
distributed or put in the
exists.
library.
Okay. So this is a specific residence on Riverview Road that people came and commented about at our previous meeting, and that owner has now decided to go before the zoning hearing board and ask for a special exception to become an actual bed and breakfast, and to also ask for a variance so that they can rent out rooms in the accessory dwelling of their house.
from a timing point of view, we will meet again, will we not, before the hearing, zoning hearing board hearing on that issue?
That is correct, because the hearing on that issue before the zoning hearing board is on Tuesday, September 26th. So yes, we'll
And so,
have time.
I think that what we need at our next meeting is your committee to take a position, whether council itself should formally take a position before the zoning hearing board with respect to that application. I don't think that's something we need to discuss tonight because the timing will really push it to next meeting, but at next meeting perhaps you could come back with whatever your committee's recommendation is on that point. There's been a lot of history back from when Tim and I were on the planning commission about use to be made of accessory structures, and there's some kind of particularized history about this particular structure, which is part of what's at issue. But we look forward to whether you have a recommendation or not at our next meeting, whether council itself should take a position before the zoning hearing board on this issue at its meeting where this is considered.
Okay, will do. Thank you. And that's it, Russ?
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I may be out of order, but is there some vast secret going on?
You are out of order. That's
to reveal the particular dwelling in question? I mean, I gather that will eventually come out.
The property will be posted.
Right.
Probably within.
It will not remain secret, but that's all we're talking about tonight. Thank you. Now, after the meeting, you can ask Mary if she wants to tell you where that place is, if she's welcome to do so.
And I can just say the applications are always available for our review in our office, and they're in the library as well. So
Right.
you can actually look at the application, and it's advertised in the newspaper.
Okay. Public safety.
Thank you, David. First things first, there will be no meeting tomorrow evening, and no meeting in August of the Public Safety Committee. Committee report, I just want to remind folks that I sent around minutes of the meeting on August 2nd. You probably have already forgotten about them, but there are two things I want to mention. One is, and this is related to the Aging in Place Task Force. You may remember that the Police Chief, Brian Craig, with some assistance, prepared a data form or an information form that seniors and others in the borough could complete voluntarily and submit to the police department with information about themselves and their dwelling and who's living with them and that sort of thing. And because this was of particular interest to seniors and was actually one of the recommendations of the Aging in Place Task Force, we forwarded that form to Linton Stables, who responded today on behalf of the task force. And he had an interesting suggestion, which was that perhaps the form as is asking too much information, or at least some people might feel that way. So his suggestion was that there would be a form wherein people provided less information, but they would also include on the form the location in their house of more detailed information that would be kept inside, a pink tube or something. I'm just kind of making that up. And it would be, in the freezer or in the hallway chest drawer or whatever.
Say where it's going to be.
Such that if there were some kind of emergency at the house, the police would know where to look for even more detailed information, such as social security numbers, other kind of health information, and that sort of thing. Interesting idea. Just bringing it up, that's obviously going to require some further discussion. The only other thing I'm going to mention from the committee minutes is the continuing discussion of proposed revisions to the civil service regulations. The committee did not actually come to a conclusion on that. Therefore, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, we have no recommendation to make to council. The motion that was made before is still tabled. Unless that motion is detabled, I make the, I don't know, is detabled the right word? On-tabled? Taken off the table?
Untabled.
On-table. I guess I would make the suggestion that I think that Chief Craig anyway has expressed a desire to get moving in the search for a new officer. And I would move this evening to authorize the Civil Service Commission to begin that process. That is to say, the process of hiring an entry-level officer on the basis of the existing regulations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? And the implication of that, given everything that has happened to this point, is that any successful candidate has to have 60 credits of what a generalized post-high school qualifying education, and if I'm framing this correctly, may in fact have tattoos.
Right. We did not come to a decision on tattoos, and we're going to leave that up to policies and procedures of the department.
Okay. So the motion is to untable?
No, I'm not moving to untable.
The implication of that.
Yeah, so the implication of there not being votes sufficient to untable the previous motion, I'm making a new motion to authorize the Civil Service Commission to begin the process of hiring an entry-level officer.
Is there a second?
I did.
Okay, there is a second from Ross. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
Same question I always ask. I'm a member of the Civil Service Commission. I want to make sure it's okay if I vote on this.
Yeah.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It's unanimous. It's approved.
That's all I have. Again, no meeting tomorrow evening.
Considering the past work of the committee, I wonder, Jane, what, if anything, you can report on people obtaining permits on Harvard and in those areas where now daytime parking requires a permit by residents, people applying for the permits.
We only had a couple of people who didn't already have them, because most of them already had blue stickers so they could park overnight on the street. I think maybe 2 people came in, we don't seem to have inconvenienced anybody greatly. We got 1 letter of thanks. It's been asking for that on the 200 or 300 block of Dartmouth Avenue. So I think most people sort of implemented something that was pretty easy because they already had those permits.
And so there has now not been any parking on that block of Harvard
Well, I think
since
there are,
that change was made?
I mean, there are probably residents who are.
The 700 block
Yeah,
or the 600 block?
yeah, in front of the church. I haven't been by.
Occasionally there are some,
But they would be permitted residents?
Correct.
Yep, okay.
I mean, every once in a while you get a car there, but it hasn't. It was all pushed from there to council notice to push the 200 block of Cornell, which we rectified with the permit. So
Right.
now we haven't had any problems.
Okay, thank you. Public Works, Parks and Recreation, David. Other David?
Mr. Grote, thank you. The first item we have here is a consideration of bid to repair storm sewer that runs down Michigan Avenue. This, Jane, if I'm correct, is our rebid?
This is the project that came in really high. We separated it, and this is just the storm sewer portion.
Okay, so there's 3 bids in front of us.
Correct.
$33,960, $30,500, and $16,500, which is considerably lower, and we're required to take a low bid regardless, correct?
Well, as long as it's a responsible bid.
That was kind of my question, looking at the 3 of them, and I assume that's our verbiage laid out, that they just then pencil
Right.
numbers.
The company that's doing it is the same people who are doing our street work, so you basically eliminated all those mobilization costs of getting to Swarthmore.
That's a good explanation, otherwise it would be concerning.
It would be,
Yeah.
if that was your roof on your house, you would.
Yeah,
Right.
and
Scratch it.
sometimes they submit bids having made a mistake, and
Right.
you need to have a discussion with them, but since there's a rational explanation for this.
So do we need a motion on that, Jane?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, assuming the low bid, I move to approve that we accept the bid for Joseph Suker and Sons for $16,500.
Is there a second?
Second.
Now, this is the same company that, or is it, I know there have been two Suker companies. Is this the same one that has the successful bid for paving? That hasn't yet started? Okay, and are they already there doing work? I thought you,
No.
who
They're doing,
who is here
they're doing
being
work,
mobilized?
they're doing work in Springfield.
They
No.
will be mobilized to do the paving job when they do this.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I guess the concept is they can come in.
Yeah, well, whenever that turns out to be. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The award of the contract to Joseph A. Suker and Sons for $16,500 is approved.
And we are rebidding the sanitary sewer portion of the job, probably in the next month or two.
Okay. Anything else?
We did meet as a committee last month. It was very quiet and fairly uneventful, so I don't think there's too much to report. We talked a little bit about the horseshoe pits, or the mess they've made, and the EPC is working with SRA to remediate any damage done. But since the meeting, we've kind of come to a determination on the fireplace that sits in Little Crump Creek Park, which is at the end of its functional life. So for those or many fans that have been to many borough council meetings, we started measuring it because it's tipping backwards, and it's tipping backwards. So we weren't sure, now we know. So we're probably going to go ahead and remove it. It's not used very frequently. It is kind of old and pretty, and Jean did a little bit of research on it, if you want to share it.
I was on somebody's blog.
It was a neat story. So.
In the early 70s, Ed Dunning designed that park, and that chimney, stone, whatever it is, was already there. And prior to that, there had been a hut that had been removed. I don't think we have anybody here who remembers this. And the hut had been used by Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and Sea Scouts.
Correct.
Sea something Scouts. There was a troop in Swarthmore. And so there was some sentiment to leave that structure up, even though Ed Dunning really wasn't too sure. But he said they did a little engineering work and they thought it was safe enough to leave up. So today I Googled hut, Little Crump Creek, whatever, and a post came up from Bill Titus, who still lives in town, who I will contact, who said that his family used to own that area, and the hut was originally the office for PennDOT when they did, which was then the Department of Highways, in 1929 when they built the underpass.
As part of the WPA?
Right, and in typical thrifty Quaker fashion, Mr. Brooke, they came to consensus to move the hut to Little Crump Creek Park, which already existed, although it was much smaller, and it housed the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. So at some point, they added that chimney thing at the same time, hopefully not built by the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts with no foundation whatsoever. So we know that at least part of the structure is now, 90 years old.
So that was the...
But that's wrong.
There was a hut for which that was the fireplace.
Correct.
From the
Correct, exactly. And that explains why, when you look at it on its face, why on earth would there be a fireplace of that size in this little park? Well, it was attached to a building at one point.
So I think they brought the hut over and built the fireplace.
So where was the hut originally?
Right at the fireplace.
I know, but
Oh, it was at the 320 underpass.
Oh,
So they were
sorry.
building.
It was when they were building, it was their little construction office. That's according to Bill Titus. So I will contact Bill, maybe get a little more history, and at the very least, we'll put an article in the Swarthmorian before we tear it down. I wanted to put up a historical marker. Mr. Murphy thought that was kind of dumb, but I don't like those things.
It's a very nice story. I don't know if we have to put a marker in the ground.
Maybe somebody can write a children's book about it.
It could be the next story.
I thought we could maybe build something out of that, but then I know that Leslie in the public works, we would be like, oh, we'll never be able to mow around that. So we'll figure something out, but at least we'll make sure what the story is before we take it down. I don't think we'll have an impact on taking it down.
can't be repaired or.
There doesn't seem to be much of a foundation.
And there's very little actual use of it.
Yeah.
You know what, it was a focal point, and not that we need a focal point, but it is a focal point, and it's attractive, and with that, I'll be a little sad when it's down, there.
Well, it's not the Tower of Pisa.
Yeah.
Which is leaning also, but there's every good reason to try.
They're pumping hydraulic cement underneath the
Yeah.
Tower of Pisa.
Right, and under Chester Road, and, you know, we only have board immunity if we are unaware of a problem, if that thing topples and, you know, this is a public meeting.
But you just know there'll be somebody behind it when it happens. It's just, it's an
So, yeah.
My mother-in-law, bless her heart, grew up in Swarthmore, could remember when there was a guy in a little hut on Chester Road who would go out and put down the crossing.
Michael, I think his name was,
Yes, yes. Oh, yeah, before the underpass was.
So, Mr. Grove, I don't have anything else. That's a lovely story, Jane. Thank you for sharing.
Well, so to be continued. No, to be continued.
And it's now preserved in video and YouTube for in posterity.
And if the Swarthmorean or the Daily Times would like to have anyone who has more of the story, fanciful or not, to call me, I'm happy to add it.
We will not meet in August, we will meet again in September.
Mayor?
Not too much, summertime in the borough, living is easy. It's been gratifying to see how much use Central Park has been getting this summer. The Thursday night music series has been, I think, a great success. There's no music this week, but next week coming up, it's there's a singer-songwriter who's member that Herb Montrose' band, Out of Order, is also playing. So that will be a good time. It's really nice. It's local musicians and families and folks are coming out and having picnic suppers and listening to music. It's really nice and personally gratifying to me after the work of getting the amphitheater built in Central Park, and et cetera, et cetera. So
it's proven to be a playground for little kids beyond anything that I could have imagined, just at any time. Okay, that's it.
That's it.
Okay. Borough manager.
I just wanted to note too, at the Public Works meeting, there was some concern of the new Crescent Avenue sidewalk, that new stone wall that went in created somewhat of a drop off to the creek. In really a great moment, I mentioned with the Cuzzy, and by the end of the week, they had very proudly installed a kind of attractive split rail fence. They were going to do some planting in front of it as well. So it's certainly much safer than it was before. So many thanks to them for that.
Part of it, a cable.
And a cable to connect the park next to the wall over the creek. I don't think there's anything in the manager's report. There are 2 other zoning hearings pending that have nothing to do with the one that will be in September. As I pointed out last time, we now have upcoming town center events that have been approved. The Truckathon is on here. Mentioned that last time, I think. The Community Fine Arts Center was actually approved by you guys some time ago before we actually had a process. So those are the only 2. And next month you'll see the co-op is having, I think it's their 80th birthday celebration, and that will be in October. Just to note too, that July 19th Pennsylvania seminar that I went to, I gave a little talk about the borough's roundabout, which is considered now does a lot of things, including enhanced pedestrian safety, bicycle safety. So there was a lot of interest from people at the meeting. Not the cheapest solution, but still. The 2018 budget schedule, I think you guys have been through this before. The letters have gone out to all of the agencies that were granted money last year, as well as the Swarthmore Senior Citizens Association, which is misspelled on this memo. They received a letter last year. They did not actually apply for funding for themselves, but they might this year. During the month of September, when you meet in your committees, people will be prepared to present their budgets to you. And then at the September meeting of the Finance Committee, I'll have a base budget which will not include any of these requests, but we'll start to give the Finance Committee an idea of what people are asking for this year. Police Chief will have submitted his budget by then, the Public Works Department as well. And then in October, November, you can see the dates as we start to narrow down what we're looking at. Obviously, we're in negotiations with the police department this year, makes it a little tricky in terms of the personnel, you don't really know. You can decide to put in a placeholder amount, you can leave it as it was last year, that's a matter for the finance committee to discuss. And then I'm sure Michael will let you know as he describes the budget, what they've decided and what they've recommended. We actually adopted a preliminary budget in November, we advertised it, we seek public input, and then the public hearing in December, and then the budget is actually adopted at that second meeting in December, which remember is 2 weeks after the regular meeting, so there's enough time to advertise the budget ordinance, which sets your taxes and fees for the year.
Okay. Anything else?
Any questions? No?
Yeah, this is, some of us have seen this memo, but
I know,
too many
you
times
can do it
before.
yourself.
Solicitor?
Thank you, I don't have anything tonight.
Any other business tonight? At this point, we'll go into executive session. We thank you all for coming tonight and for staying around for this. And